Alright guys, welcome back to Underground Science, and in this video we'll be talking about acetylcholine release in the brain. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So acetylcholine release actually involves our frontal lobe of the brain, alright, deep inside our frontal lobe. And you can't see in this picture since this is not a 3D picture, but if we were to look at a 3D picture, we'd say that the frontal lobe is about right there. Alright, so we have our frontal lobe right there, but it's not a 3D picture, so sorry about that, right? This was the drawing I did for a 2D picture representing the brain and spinal cord, so hopefully it's not too bad, right? And our frontal lobe is our lobe that we have for higher level thinking, right? Problem solving skills and all that stuff, decision making, right? Our prefrontal cortex, which is that part where we do higher level thinking, right? And our frontal lobe is super important, and so if we say this is our frontal lobe, right, so let's go and label that as our frontal lobe, then there's actually neurons deep inside our frontal lobe, and there's specific places, all right? So we have nuclei, all right? So part of the nuclei of the neurons. So we have basalis nuclei and we have septal nuclei, all right? So our basalis nuclei, let's say, are right here, right? So we have a bunch of cell bodies and nuclei in our central nervous system, and let's say blue will represent our basalis nuclei area, all right, in our frontal lobe. So blue will represent our basalis nuclei, all right, in our frontal lobe, and let's say orange will represent our septal nuclei in the frontal lobe. So there's a bunch of nuclei ready to extend their axons down to the cerebral cortex. All right, so let's say orange will represent our septal nuclei section in our frontal lobe, right, deep inside our frontal lobe. And so what happens is that these basalis nuclei, right, these neurons extend out to the cerebral cortex, and they actually release acetylcholine, all right, in the cerebral cortex. All right, so like so. And just to save time, we'll just draw a couple of septal nuclei axons projecting out into the cerebral cortex. And so what this is going to result in is a bunch of all these axons to release a bunch of acetylcholine, right? Or at least moderate amounts that aren't too bad for us or aren't too good, right? Just a normal amount of acetylcholine into our cerebral cortex. All right, and as we know, acetylcholine is a really important neurotransmitter that's used in communication between neurons in our sympathetic nervous system, right? In our sympathetic nervous system, in our parasympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic, I think I spelled, nope. Wait, did I spell that wrong? Yeah, there's an A right here. It's parasympathetic nervous system. All right, so oops, sorry about that. Parasympathetic nervous system. Can't really write neat today, I don't know why. Parasympathetic nervous system. And we use acetylcholine as an important neurotransmitter when we're talking about muscular contractions, right? So our lower motor neuron video that we discussed, I don't know if I said it in there, but our lower motor neuron synapse on a skeletal muscle, and it actually releases acetylcholine as our neurotransmitters, resulting in muscular contraction. All right, so we use it in muscular contractions also. So our somatic nervous system, all right? So our somatic nervous system. All right, so that's that, right? So acetylcholine, again, just to recap, we have two different sections of nuclei in our frontal lobes. We have a basalis nuclei section, right? Many nuclei that's part of basalis nuclei that extend their axons into the cerebral cortex and release acetylcholine. And we also have septal nuclei in our frontal lobe that extend their axons into the cerebral cortex, and they also release acetylcholine. And after that, we know that acetylcholine is a very important neurotransmitter when we're talking about the conduction of signals between neurons in the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system, right, along with norepinephrine and epinephrine. And acetylcholine is also really good for lower motor neurons, right, in our somatic nervous system. So let's go and state that. Lower motor neurons in our somatic nervous system, all right? which is right here that we wrote, and muscular contractions. Alright, so guys, so that's pretty much it for the release of acetylcholine into our cerebral cortex and our frontal lobe. Our neurons that originate in our frontal lobe, right, our basalis nuclei and our septal nuclei. And hopefully that video made sense. This video made sense to you guys. Alright, so hopefully you guys tune in to my future videos where I'll talk about more cool topics about biochem, physics, and chem. And so I really hope to see you guys there. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. And see you guys. Alright, stay safe.